Indeed, a very warm welcome to you. This is the Business Hour podcast. My name is Mbogoh, and today we'll be indulging none other than Sundeep Raichura, the CEO for ZAMARA, just to be able to have a discussion around how we can be able to tap into pension scheme to be able to fund SME growth. But before we go into that discussion, here's your business tip for the day. And our business tip for the day says the way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. That is by Walt Disney. Alright, and as promised, I'm currently joined by Sundeep Raichura, who's going to give us some insights into how the pension market is currently doing and how we can be able to diversify and get these pension schemes investing in SMEs. Sundeep, thank you so much and karibu sana to the program.
Thank you, Jimmy. It's really good to be on the Business Hour.
Yeah.
And looking forward to share some insights on pensions.
All right, I think let's get straight into it. So first of all, Sundeep, one of the things that we want to understand is the current status of pensions in the country. Where do you feel we are? How are we doing?
Let me respond to this, Jimmy, from two perspectives. Firstly, the pensions industry in Kenya has come a long way in the last 20 years, since the time the regulatory framework was implemented in the year 2000.
Okay.
Assets under pension funds have increased from 80 billion in 2000 to 1.3 trillion as at the end of last year. This is more than a 16-fold increase in 20 years. Yeah. So there's been substantial growth in the pensions industry. We have a very good regulatory framework in place, probably one of the best in Africa, a fairly responsive and competent regulator. We've seen an improvement in the governance of pension funds, including the NSSF, and this has translated to greater protection of members' benefits and hopefully better outcomes for members of pension funds as well.
Yeah.
But now when we look at it from the other perspective, 80% of Kenyans are still excluded from any form of pension saving or safety net. Mm-hmm. This means that 80% of our working population has no pension coverage at all.
Yeah.
Most of that, the informal sector is virtually uncovered, and they comprise the majority of our workforce. And even the people who are saving, the 20% who are saving, they are saving a grossly inadequate amount.
Yeah.
So by the time people get to retire, they are retiring on very inadequate savings. So the point I'm trying to make is that we've got a huge amount of money in the pensions industry, but yet we are not doing so well in terms of coverage and adequacy. Yeah. And I would argue that we are then not realizing the full potential of the pension sector. Because can you imagine if you had those remaining 80% also saving?
Yeah.
We could probably be a 5 trillion plus industry in a number of years. And that could be a good catalyst for economic growth.
Yeah, because
creating jobs.
Sundeep, sorry to interrupt, because when you say about 80% is not covered, 80% of the population, then from where I'm sitting, we're looking at some sort of a crisis in the near future, because when you look at the population right now, the average age is about 19. Mm-hmm. In another 50 or so years, the average will be more than that, will be around 80 years old. So, and if 80% of these senior citizens rather are not covered, then we're looking at an old age poverty crisis.
Absolutely. You've made the point so well, Jimmy, right? In the next 20 years, we are as a country going to face a looming retirement crisis. Because currently, as you said, we are a young population. Yeah. But in 20 years' time, we will be more than 9 million Kenyans above the age of 60. Mm-hmm. Okay. Just to provide them with a modest stipend every year will cost us 334 billion shillings in today's money terms. It's going to be next to impossible to find that unless we take urgent action now. So yes, we are facing a looming retirement crisis, and we need political will, we need regulatory support and stakeholder collaboration to ensure that we create the mechanisms for pensions and saving inclusion in Kenya. And this COVID-19 situation is really driving the point home, because in the space of a few days of the containment measures that were implemented by the government, most of the people in the urban areas, in the slums, could not feed themselves, could not support their families. Now, if they could not look after themselves in those few months or few weeks, what is going to happen when they drop out of the workforce.
Yeah.
The challenge that we have is that most Kenyans have near zero savings. And that is the culture we need to change if we are to avoid a monumental crisis in the next few years.
Okay, Sundeep, let's switch gears slightly now. Talk about the money that is currently lying with pension schemes.
Yes.
And we know pensions have always invested in real estate, and which a majority have actually invested in. But then, how do we get pensions to start diversifying, to start investing in our own local SMEs?
Absolutely. I think it's good firstly to look at how is this 1.3 trillion invested.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you take this 1.3 trillion, the amount invested in real estate is about 20% of the total. Okay. So it's not the big amount that you feel. It's only the larger funds that are heavily invested in real estate. Most of the smaller ones are not. So this 1.3 trillion, I would say 60% of that is in fixed income securities.
Okay.
And 20% in equities, 18% in real estate, and perhaps about 1 or 2% offshore.
Yeah.
But you can see that there is very limited diversification. Most of the money in fixed income is actually in government securities. Okay. Right? If you look at what is invested in equities, it's like the NSE has got about 48 stocks. Those that actively trade is about 20. And if you take the typical pension fund, more than 90% of the equity portfolio is in the top 10 holdings. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So there is very limited diversification, and Kenyan pension funds are not investing in the real Kenyan economy. And as you rightly point out, SMEs are the backbone of our country. How do you channel this investment into the sectors of our economy that can really drive growth? Now, this is a difficult question, Jimmy, because you need the correct investable, bankable opportunities. You need projects. You need the right structures within which to invest, right? So I don't foresee pension funds investing in an SME directly. Okay. But if there's an SME that is able to list, well, even if it's on the alternative market segment, right? Then yes, I mean there are avenues for financing created, or if there are bonds that are issued, or if the government looks at an SME type bond, right? But you're right. I mean, there's a need to see how can we diversify these investments into the real Kenyan economy.
Yeah, because again, that now brings me to my next question, which is looking forward in terms of some of these areas with great potential for pension investment. Where which direction do we see pensions taking in the next 5-10 years to come?
So what I've seen in the last 5 years is that there's been a huge amount of interest amongst pension funds in alternative investments. So pension funds are looking at investing in infrastructure, they're looking at investing in private equity. Now, private equity funds are a very good way of investing into SMEs because a lot of these PE funds will look for attractive companies that are potentially, that are in the SME sector but have got growth potential. So I see private equity, venture capital funds as a good way of catalyzing investment into SMEs, right? But it's happening at a much slower pace than we would like. So as we speak now, the percentage invested in private equity funds by pension funds is still less than 1%. The investment guidelines in the regulations permit up to 10% to be invested in PE funds. Yeah. And some of the things that we're really doing is to see how can we get provide more education, structure these PE investments well so that pension funds can start taking advantage of them.
All right, Sundeep, I think one of my biggest questions that I've been trying to get an answer to is whenever we have pensions, if you look at the kind of investments that they've been doing, you will realize they are sort of interested in long-term investments. How do we change this? And correct me if I'm wrong, because the perception is most pensions will invest in a long-term investment plan that will take 5 or so years to start maturing.
So actually, if you look at the liabilities of a pension fund, they are long-term liabilities. These are amounts that are needed to be paid in the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years into the future, because this is money that is being invested for people's old age, right? So by their very nature, pension funds will be seeking long-term investments, or they should be seeking long-term investments. And what is important is how do we package investment products that pension funds can recognize, these are providing a long-term stable income stream for their members, and good returns, because ultimately pension funds, their primary obligation is to ensure that they are getting a good return at an acceptable level of risk for their members. So what we need to work on is how do we create those structures that pension funds can invest in so that that money can be channeled into SMEs. Now, this needs to take account of the risk factor. Right. How do you de-risk some of these investments? And this is where I'm thinking in terms of government guarantees and the like, which many other countries in the world have done, and also further incentives for private equity investment in the country. And by their nature, PE funds are long-term, right? I mean, any private equity fund, you're looking at 10 years, right? So they are very well suited for pension investments.
And again, when you look at most of these private equity funds that we currently have, even they themselves are sort of struggling to invest in our SME sector. And my question has always been, what is so dangerous or so risky with our current SMEs that everyone is sort of avoiding investing directly in them?
SMEs, by their very nature, right? I mean, they are at that stage of their business where perhaps the systems, the structures, the governance structures are not quite in place. So actually having a private equity investor enables those SMEs to be able to scale up, because they're benefiting from the expertise that comes from private equity funds. They're benefiting from the capital. They're benefiting from systems, structures, processes, right, that need to be put in place for a business to be viable and scalable in the long run. So it's a chicken and egg question, right? It is a challenge for every country. But if you look at Kenya, right, where 90% of our business is our SMEs, it's something we need to tackle.
All right, Sundeep, as a manager in this space, for you, what are some of the key considerations that you have to look at before deciding this is where we want to put our money?
So the most important thing is this consistent with the investment policy of the pension fund that you are looking after or administering or helping to structure an investment policy for? Because as ZAMARA, we're not investment managers. We're actually pension fund administrators and advise pension funds on their investment strategy. So we would say that, look, as a pension fund, you need to allocate your assets in this way, like X% going into fixed income, X% into equities, and a modest 4 to 5 or even up to 10% over a period of time in private equity and venture capital type funds. But again, the type of things that one looks at when investing in these institutions is the level of risk that you are taking. Is that consistent with the level of return that you expect to get? So the risk-return equation is very important. History, the track record, experience, all those things also come into play.
All right, Sundeep, over the last couple of months, we've seen a lot of withdrawals from pension schemes. This is from contributors, people who had jobs, and suddenly they don't. How bad is the situation?
Okay, look, we have seen a number of employers suspend contributions, discontinue contributions, or reduce contributions. But it has not been as severe as we had earlier anticipated. So yes, we've had a handful of employers do that, but not everybody is doing that, right? Which is actually very encouraging. And indeed, this long-term money that we have saving in the country that we have, it's one that we really need to heavily rely on to rebuild our country, right, in the post-COVID situation. So it's actually very encouraging that that's not happening as much as was earlier anticipated. And indeed, our plea and motivation is to the government is, look, we need to make pension savings in this country compulsory. We need to ensure that every Kenyan is saving a certain minimum level to achieve two benefits. One, to ensure that Kenyans are well prepared for their future retirement. They've got enough saved. But also, this money can then be used to build our country. Right? Pension funds can be real catalysts for economic growth. If this money is channeled into productive areas of investment, you can fuel economic growth, create more jobs, and create a virtuous cycle, if there ever was one.
All right, and again, Sundeep, when you look at the way our economy is currently set up, there is a less a number of the population that is currently informal employment. A majority of our population is in the informal sector. When it comes to issues of contribution, again, that is where the problem is. That is just trying to cast this net wider. How do we reach out to those in the informal sector?
Okay, that's an excellent question. There's a huge amount of work that is being done. And indeed, as ZAMARA, we have a number of solutions for the informal sector. So today, as a country, we've got, technologically we're very advanced. I mean, we can, through, M-Pesa is a phenomenon in this country. Through the comfort of your phone, you can open a pension account, you can contribute, you can withdraw, you can do so at any time from any part of the country, right? So it's very easy to do this. And indeed, it is very possible to do this, right? So there are schemes that you have in this country where you can contribute whatever you can. First of all, you can open your account in 5 minutes. You can save any amounts at any time. So let's say I'm a border rider, and if I have a seasonal income, and if I want to be able to save 200 to 300 shillings a day or 500 shillings a month, I can do so very easily, right? So as we discussed earlier, Jimmy, this is a huge problem that we need to tackle. There are solutions to these, right? It is possible to structure pension solutions for that informal sector, which has different requirements to those who are in salaried employment.
All right, because again, Sundeep, this might be one of those ideas, because when you look at what SACCOs are currently doing, is whatever contribution is made to the benefit of the members. If you're a SACCO member, it becomes easier for you to get to access loan and to be able even to get investment from this SACCO to your business. Why can't we do the same with pension schemes?
100%, Jimmy. That's a very good question. I think one of the things that we have been motivating as ZAMARA is that in order for pension schemes to resonate better with Kenyans, we need to try and ask that, can the pension system accommodate wider savings priorities? Because when you talk to the average Kenyan, they will say, yes, saving for retirement is important. But it's not our most pressing priority. We have other more competing priorities, like saving for a home or educating our children or doing something else. And we feel that we should expand our current pension system to enable those wider objectives to be achieved. And that way, people will actually be more motivated to save. Because if you know that as I save for my old age, I can also save for other means, for other needs. If I have another need, I can actually access some of this money. Right? I mean, we're not talking about wholesale access, but maybe 10% of your money can be used for housing. Or it could be used for educating your children or educating yourself, right? So I feel this is something we need to do if we can have a pension system that Kenyans are more connected with.
What do we need to change? Is it the policy framework that is currently there that is not working for the people? Or is it that some of these pension schemes are just rigid and they don't want to accept change?
So look, I think from a policy perspective, as I've said, we've come a long way. Okay? And I feel that we can build on that success. So we can say, look, this is working well. Why can we not extend it, right? To be able to achieve other objectives. And so motivations have been made to the regulator, to the National Treasury, and we hope that they will be receptive so that we can start implementing some of these ideas which can help to transform the saving system in Kenya.
Because again, as you earlier said, we have a very poor saving culture, and this is something we even had the CBK governor talk about, where a majority of the population in Kenya actually live hand to mouth. Whether you're employed or you're in the informal sector, there is those competing needs. So what kind of motivation are you currently, would you rather suggest this is what we need to do to be able to get so-and-so to be able to start now saving or even just investing?
Look, as a country, we've had, in the pension system, we've had a number of tax incentives for saving through a pension system, but they are not enough, right? They don't go far enough. If you look at the limit on tax deductible saving in Kenya, it's been 20,000 shillings, and it's been 20,000 shillings for more than 15 years now. So that ceiling has not been adjusted. So we need to have more tax incentives. In fact, we probably need to substantially increase that ceiling for tax-exempt savings. Now, that will help people in the formal sector to save more. But I feel that, look, incentives are only going to go so far. For the formal sector in Kenya, my recommendation to government is we need a compulsory pension system. We need to say that everybody who's in salaried employment has to save, and has to save a sensible amount for their future. Now, for the informal sector, obviously that can't work. You need to look at other solutions. So some of the things that we would suggest is it possible to structure to have matching contributions? So if I save X amount, the government will give me an incentive by matching that amount over a period of 5 years or whatever, right? So there's various different things that can be tried to create that savings culture. But I feel that COVID-19 is a real trailer to that future, and we need to make use of this time to sensitize Kenyans on the need to save for their future.
All right, I'm going to use a different example. For instance, when you look at something like the NHIF and why it has so many Kenyans coming on board is because of the benefits they get with regards to if I go, if I get sick and I go to a public hospital, there's a likelihood that I will be attended to and go home without spending so much.
Correct.
My question then is, why can't we make pensions this accessible? Why can't we make them sort of like, much as you're saving, you have the option of not waiting until you retire to come and access some of these funds to come and collect your benefits?
Okay, look, that's yes, you say NHIF because health is an immediate need. People will prioritize that spend, right? But pensions is something so far into the future. Most people will say, why do I need to worry about something 20 years away when I've got other things I need to take care about now, right? Now, it would not be wise to say that we should make the pension system completely flexible and whereby people can access their money at any time, because for precisely the reason we talked about earlier, that if it's hard enough now, how much harder is it going to be when you don't have a job, right? So we need to say to Kenyans that, look, this money belongs to the older person you will become, right? And therefore, we need to have that discipline and put that money aside. And for the formal salaried workforce, that is something we have certainly been motivating the government to do, to say, ensure that a sensible amount is saved and it is retained for the future. Yes, there are various proposals about accessing some of this money for housing purposes. And I believe that, yes, this should be looked into and done in a sensible way. But by and large, this money should be saved for your future, right? Because that's when you are likely and you will need it. However, I've gone further to say that we should have the flexibility to allow people to have different savings pots. So a saving pot for your retirement, but add to that a saving pot for your house. And add to that a pot for your post-retirement medical or your education or whatever other need you might have. And there are ways of doing it such that in your early years, maybe you want to focus more on your other needs, like a home over your head. But as you get older, more of that money is channeled towards retirement saving. So there are policy measures that can be taken to do this correctly. For the informal sector, on the other hand, I would argue that for a sector that has simply not had that savings culture or not had the opportunity to save through an organized system, give them that flexibility for a period of time. So say to somebody who's saving in the informal sector, yes, you can access your money, but keep it for 5 years and you'll get this incentive. Keep it for 10 years and you'll get an additional incentive. And sometimes you just need to give them that comfort that if I put my money in, will I be able to get it out? If they can do it, I bet they will continue saving.
Because I'm sure that is one of the biggest disclaimers that people are thinking, if I start putting money here, I might not be able to access this money until after 20 or 30 years, which is sort of a distraction because sometimes you have needs. And so, Sundeep, from where you sit, do you think what we lack is a savings culture or just the discipline to wait until you've retired?
So look, I think it would not be right to generalize to say we don't have a savings culture. But look, the reality is our savings rate is very low. And most people will put off saving for that future, right? Unless they are compelled to do so. And this is why I'm pushing for the compulsion, right? Now, I feel that, look, we need to change our attitudes to saving. And we need to be able to show people that small amounts of money accumulated over a long period of time can make a meaningful difference to your own standard of living, to your own future financial well-being. Right? And I really feel that there's a gigantic effort that is needed in financial literacy. Right? And this is a public good. All of us as stakeholders need to collaborate on this, right? But we need to start changing people's mindsets. We also need to give them the comfort that the money that they save is going to be well looked after. We need to demonstrate to them that if you save, you can take advantage of the power of compound interest. So let's say you've saved for 30 years. The amount of money that you have actually put should be less than a quarter, should be about less than 25% of the total amount at the end. The rest should be investment income on that money, right? So the more we can start saying to Kenyans, look, you need to save. There are ways you can save, and look at the benefits of saving. And here we are also giving you incentives. But we also need to have some sticks in terms of compulsion.
All right, and over the last couple of years, probably 5 or so years, we've seen RBA being a bit hard on pension schemes in terms of you need to get your act together. Do you think this is sort of pushing out in terms of that confidence to potential contributors? Do you think they've achieved that so far?
Absolutely. Look, I think, as I said, we've come a long way. In the earlier years, the efforts of the RBA were very much focused on encouraging schemes, giving them time to comply. But 20 years later, now is a time to say, look, there are rules and regulations in place. You have to comply with them. And if you don't comply with them, there are consequences and sanctions for not complying. So, and as you rightly say, the RBA lately, you've seen that they have been tough on pension funds. They have been tough on the industry, which I mean, again, they also have to have a balancing act, because this is a voluntary industry. Tomorrow, if you become too hard, you might find that you have a counterproductive effect, right? So far, my sense is that they have taken a balanced approach, and even those schemes that have had difficulty have been given time to take the necessary remedial action. But when obviously those remedial measures are not working, steps have to be taken.
All right, and I think that has gone a long way in terms of just clearing the benefits of those who are in need of it. Sundeep, as we wind up, maybe just one of the things that you need to explain to someone in the SME, a small business owner, why do they need to join a pension scheme?
Because just like everybody else, they and their staff are going to have the need for their future. Right? If you as employees within an SME, you are as much. I mean, you are also going to become old, age, right? You also, if something were to happen to you whilst you're working, you have a family that depends on you, right? So, pension schemes are a very tax-efficient way of remunerating. So that's something that SMEs need to think about, right? That contributions they make to a pension scheme are tax deductible. Investment income is tax exempt up to certain limits. The same thing applies to the employees, individuals within an SME. So I feel that every Kenyan should be saving, and I feel that encouragement will only go so far. Incentives will only go so far. So if I were the government, I would say Kenya needs a compulsory pension system. So whether you're in the corporate sector, whether you're in an SME, you have to save. What we may want to think about is how do we phase it in? Over what time frame do we do this, right? So, but the principle should be there. I know I've made this point a number of times. But the principle of saying that we need to get everybody to save for their future should be embraced by all of us as Kenyans. Because it's about safeguarding the future of our society, right? I mean, if we don't do it, we will all suffer. If we get it right, we will all benefit as a country. That's you and me and everybody out there.
All right, and I believe that is that's a good place to end it, Sundeep. But I'm sure there are some people who might not be very happy with mandatory contribution. But well, if it's what will get us to where we need to get to, then I think it's an idea that could...
Everybody will thank me in 20 years' time if we do this. I guarantee that.
Yeah, okay. Indeed. Thank you so much, Sundeep, for joining us. And that's how we wrap up this episode of the Business Hour podcast. My name is Jimmy Mbogoh. And remember, every hour is Business Hour.